All right, moving to this story, new reporting coming in saying the United States is poised to launch a new phase of Venezuela-related operations in the coming days as President Trump ramping up pressure on President Nicolas Maduro's regime. And National Security Correspondent Carla Babb live in Washington. She has the details. Carla, good morning to you.
Good morning, Sean. Officials tell me U.S. military action inside Venezuela is definitely on the table, but the when is unknown. As we've previously reported to you, today the U.S. will designate the Cartel de las Solas a foreign terrorist organization. That is the group that Washington says is run by Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Secretary Pete Hegseth, speaking to OAN, said the designation will provide, quote, a whole bunch of new options. And this is happening as international airlines, you were talking about the air traffic over the week, the airlines, meanwhile, canceled flights to Venezuela over the weekend after the FAA warned of a potentially hazardous situation. And according to flight trackers, last night a U.S. military plane carrying Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dan Kane flew from Jacksonville, North Carolina, where the Marines there are leading the Caribbean operations, to Puerto Rico, where several U.S. military assets, including fighter jets and gunships, are staged. The U.S. military has deployed a massive amount of forces to the Caribbean in what the administration says is an effort to support its counter-narcotics fight. The position of U.S. Navy warships, however, according to satellite data analyzed by the New York Times, showed the ships hovering near Venezuela's coast in locations far from the Caribbean's main drug smuggling routes, which, according to government data, are off the coast of Colombia. This suggests the buildup is focused more on a pressure campaign against Venezuela than on the counter-narcotics operation the Trump administration says it's waging.
All right, so Carla, when we're looking at this developing story, obviously here, there's been back and forth of, is the United States looking for regime change? Are U.S. officials saying they are going to overthrow Maduro?
Well, Maduro certainly thinks that's the case. Trump has floated potential talks with Maduro, as we've talked about on this show, but multiple officials tell me they just aren't sure what's going to happen. These operations, Sean, are much more compartmentalized than previous operations. People who are part of these ops, who would normally have access to certain information, don't in this case. And while that could help fight against leaks, it could also mean that the left hand doesn't always know what the right hand is doing, and that is how miscalculations can occur. But two things are clear. One, the U.S. says Maduro is the illegitimate leader of Venezuela. He has rigged elections. We know this. Multiple U.S. presidents consider him illegitimate. Second, the UN Charter explicitly prohibits the use of force against another state's territorial integrity, except in the cases of self-defense or when authorized by the UN Security Council. So any strikes inside Venezuela would, at least for now, appear to violate international law. And there's another thing we're not considering, but apparently actions would be unpopular. According to a new CBS poll here in the United States, 70% of Americans surveyed said they oppose taking military action in Venezuela, with 76% saying the administration has not clearly explained the U.S. position on military action in the country, and we still haven't had a briefing from the Pentagon about these strikes.
All right,
Sean?
Carla Babb. Carla, thank you so much. We do appreciate the reporting.